My name is Stuart Silverman, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Bluespring Outloud. We're really excited about the topic we're going to talk about. Today, I have three partners from the firm SFM in Orlando, Florida, Securities Financial Management. We've got Mitch Walk, Keith Moore, and Dave Allen here to talk about your merger and what happened, where you took two amazing firms, put them together, and as an omniscient observer, I'll say 1+1 clearly equals 3.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, I thought we should start by talking a little bit about your backgrounds, what the firms looked like before, why you brought them together, what they look like post-merger, and how it's affected you, your staff, your clients, and everybody else in the process.
Who wants to start? Want me to start?
Sure, Dave, go ahead.
Okay. SFM, we'll refer to it as Security Financial Management. We are located in 4 locations in Florida: Orlando, Sarasota, Melbourne, and St. Augustine. We have 15 advisors, 23 total staff, and we're a full-service boutique wealth management firm. We pride ourselves in being very hands-on with the client, as that's what really made the match with Mitch, is that he is just like us. There was so much commonality in our practices, and our location was 20 minutes apart, and it just matched up. But as far as our thought process and what we do for the client and the level of the client, it just all magically matched up.
So I know Keith is sitting here because he's the COO, and he's going to correct all the facts you got wrong.
Correct.
Or fill in the details.
Tell me what I said.
But go ahead. Add a little color there, Keith.
Yeah.
What do we miss?
Well, I think if you go way back to Frank and Dave days, starting out as really silo practices, and then in 2008 is when Mike came on board?
No, Mike joined us in 97.
97, okay. And then you worked... You, Mike, and Frank kind of worked silo practices up until 2000.
You want me to give a little background that far? I'm going back to 83. Frank and I were kids growing up, and we lived in the same neighborhood, best buddies. And we always said we're going to start a business together. We had no idea what it was going to be. And then I went to college. He went to college. I got the first job. My boss said, "Hey, you work hard. You got a friend or anybody we can interview?" And I said, "Frank." He hired Frank. That was big Fortune 500 company. 3 years later, Frank and I said, it's time to leave. So we started our own company around 25 or 26 years old, and then failed a little bit. Then came back together and officially incorporated around, became a solo practice together, still with Security Financial Management, but we were 2 producers, no staff, no nothing, just us. And then we slowly evolved, and in 2008 became an ensemble. Mike joined us. Mike Allen, my brother, joined us in the late 90s. And then we started just building from there, adding staff, and then became who we are today.
I came in 2010 and really took a lot of the operational responsibilities off of Frank, Dave, and Mike.
Created new operations.
You're right. Yeah. We were trying to create a kind of a super OSJ at the time. So we were recruiting advisors, even inside and both outside of our firm, where they had their own offices, and then they could plug into our offices if we wanted them to come in that way. But, that was 2010, and that kind of took off that kind of solidified the ensemble, and for 10 years, I guess 2020 is when
we came in. I remember being so impressed with what a true ensemble that you'd built, because you've got teams that work with your clients.
Right.
You've got departments that do the planning and the portfolio management. You've got a great staff. You've got G2s and successors. And I thought that really
I'll add to that. Yeah. Okay. By you talking, you're making it clear. So basically we do have teams. Like, for example, my team will be me. I'll have a G2 in Mitch, who's also a certified financial planner.
Mitch, your son.
My son. Not this Mitch.
Mitch too.
We'll get into this Mitch in a minute.
We have old Mitch and young Mitch, or Mitch 1 and Mitch 2. Not good. And so, and then we have Lori, and then Frank will have Frank, Austin, and his support staff. And then we tend to, the client knows us all. And so they don't just call one, they know who they need to call.
So let's go to Mitch a little. Talk about where you were, because I've known you for a long time.
Long
Talk
time,
about
yes,
your
long
background and
time.
how you got.
Well, I started back in the end of 1998 as one advisor and one staff person, and then continued to grow the company, and joined what was the old was NFP at the time around 2001, and was with NFP until it became Kestra. And I guess I met Stuart back around, I don't know, way back in the early NFP days. But I was one single advisor, and I had about staff of 4 or 5 people, and built it up to a pretty a big practice, I would say, especially for one individual advisor. And I merged in with Bluespring in January of 2000, and really was looking at succession plans, because you're fortunate, SFM's fortunate to have this big team, this big group.
2000 or 2020?
2020. Yeah,
Okay.
I get that
Yeah, that's a
wrong.
long
Thank you.
ways away.
2020. The COO is supposed to do that.
Yeah, that's
Keith,
right.
you
He's
should
gonna
have jumped
correct
right
you.
in. Hey, so we merged and became part of Kestra, part of Bluespring, and we're trying to find a succession plan for me, and it really wasn't working out that well. And then I met Frank and Dave and Keith, and they had just also become part of Bluespring as well. And I had my firm with myself as a single advisor, and we're so close to each other that we started to talk about maybe we can work together, merge our
Bring this
companies
thing
together,
together,
and get together. Talked about it, and the most important thing, what you need to do really, is make sure you have the same philosophy, the same values with the company. And we did. We talked, we hit it off. We knew that this would be just a great merge together. So what we did was we actually got together this past April 1st. And, the first thing I did was I walked into Keith's office as a COO, and I said, "You are now taking all of the operations off my plate. It's all yours." And then, we met with, Dave and Frank and Mike. We all got together with Keith as well, and decided how we were going to split up all of my clients so we could make this merger and have a plan to work it and see how it's going to come out.
So it's hard to change is hard the older you get. And Bluespring acquires firms, as we all know. But our goal is to make the firm stronger, better, help them grow both organically and inorganically. But in this case, we had 2 firms right up the street from each other. One with a true ensemble with a whole team of people. You, who was just one of the most amazing rainmakers and business builders I've ever seen. How did this work? I mean, what was the change like? What do you feel? What did you feel like then, and what do you feel like now? What have you given away, and how's it working now?
What we've done is, again, seriously, Keith will tell you, day one, I said, take all this operation stuff that I have to do off of my plate. And he did. And then we took a look at the book of business. And, I brought over my office in Sarasota. I had the office in St. Augustine and, of course, Orlando. And then I met again with the partners, and we looked at who would be a good fit for the clients here. And we matched up who we thought would be a good fit, and then geographic. Like Mike, who's one of the partners over in Melbourne, he's going to work and handle with me. He goes up and meets all the St. Augustine clients, that whole East Coast. And then the rest of the team, what we've done now is I'm working with Dave and Mitch, who work as a team. Now we're a 3-person team for some Orlando clients and some Sarasota clients. Austin works also with me. He's a G2 like Mitch is. They do all of that. But what I've really leveraged, which has really helped a lot, is they do an amazing job with their financial planning portion of it. So I've got Mitch and Dave and Mike meeting with the clients with me and handing them right off for financial planning. And it makes it such a smooth transition, because we get together, then Mike or Dave or Mitch will email the client for the information they need. We'll set up a meeting together. I'll be there, but I don't really say a word in those meetings. I let Mitch run it,
which is
Dave
amazing
run it.
by itself.
I know, it is pretty amazing.
Well, and you're starting to
Austin-
see those clients contact Austin, Mitch, Dave.
So they're calling us as well.
They're calling you, and
which is
even
really
just today, someone called and said, "Hey, I've got my information ready." And you were probably getting ready to get on the plane. I texted Mitch and said, "They just called to find out about this." I said, "Mitch, you call them, and they want to know about their plans. Set it up and have a meeting with them." So when you have the financial planning, it just adds to it. And it makes the transition even that much easier because I'm giving it to them.
Also, what what the financial plan does is we find additional assets as well, because he had done basic financial planning, but when we do a full plan, we find out where everything is.
Yeah.
That's not with us. They picked up and just did a plan and picked up almost $1 million on a new client, existing client.
So let me dig into one part of this. We call them G2s, the successors, this next generation. And you guys have a really good team of G2s and even G3s. How's that worked? How did you find them? How'd you groom them? And how are they feeling about now working with someone like Mitch and working with you senior partners like you and Frank and whatnot?
Oh, first off, it's an incredible opportunity. I wish I had that opportunity when I was young, to join in and learn the right way. But well, my son had the opportunity because he was my son. But first off, he knew since he was little that he wanted to be in it. He studied finance, started the CFP program when he was in college his last year. So he knew he wanted to do it. So he came right in. Austin Jacks, he's a family friend also. We've known him forever. He grew up with our kids. So almost like a son, but very, very smart. Also, current certified financial planner as well. Mitch and him are both CFPs.
He was at another firm prior to coming to us.
Yeah, he was with the Ameriprise. Yeah, so he went with them and he was unhappy there. So we interviewed him and he joined us. So we snagged him. So those are two G2s. But then we have G2s that are a little bit older than them. We've got in their 40s, we've got Dan Corson, that is in the Orlando office. And then we got Steve Young in the Melbourne office. Those, we got different we got 40s, we've got 30s, we've got 20s. And then we have
old people like me.
Yeah, we got old people like you and me. We got a 23-year-old in Trevor, and he's a sharp, smart, hard charging he's in his CFP program now. So we were just fortunate. And Trevor was an intern.
So it's no longer eat what you kill, like when we all came in the business and go out and smile and dial. You're actually giving them an experience to work with a senior advisor and their clients and learn the business that way. Has that been what's happened, and has that sort of gotten some momentum?
Yes, I'd say, and they're learning it the right way, as opposed to going out and just find something and making it work. No, they know the type of business we want, and it's got to fit what we want. We're not just throwing pasta up against the wall. We want them to learn the right way.
Yeah, I think in about the first 7 months I've done with a G2 or Dave, Mitch, Mike, somewhere a little over between 145 and 160 meetings, I think. So Dave tells you I exhaust them because I go back to back to back for 6 hours.
And you always have a G2 or one of the junior advisors?
I have everybody. Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I do a lot of marketing, a lot of client events, a lot of client seminars. We did one of my events in Sarasota, I think it was in November. And, I've always done it myself forever. What I did was I did an intro. Then I brought Mitch Allen, G2, up, and Mitch did a portion on tax harvesting and estates and things like that, and which was about 35%. And then I had Austin come up, and Austin talked about investments and inflation and things like that. So I featured the two G2s.
So they each get a speaking part, and they become part of the team that's presented.
They become the team and the expert on that. They're getting the acceptance by clients because I've put the G2s up there, and that they trust me, and I know that now they know that I trust them.
Well, and through those opportunities and through the financial planning process, you have those conversations about estate planning, and that leads into conversations about, you know what, I need to introduce you to my children.
Yeah.
And that's,
next gen,
introducing the G2s to their beneficiaries, their children, is.
Yeah. So now there's some next generation.
Yeah.
A lot of what I want to focus on is the merging of these two firms, because a lot of people talk about it, but it's easier said than done. What were the hardest parts? What were the biggest challenges? Because it also involves each firm has to change a little, has to tweak what they're doing, because you want to make sure you're working the same way and it's truly ensembleized. So what were the biggest challenges, and how did you
I'd say
overcome them?
Mitch had to change the most because
Yeah.
he blended into our group. But you have to have the same culture. Number one, that's the biggest thing. And if the culture is not there, same with Bluespring.
Yeah.
You know, if the culture's not there, you're not going to join Bluespring either. Culture had to be there. The effort to get over, we were already with the same broker dealer, so that was an easy thing. So that wasn't the big
No change
issue
there.
but lining everything up and matching up all the clients, getting them all listed up and making sure that they all got notified, contacted, and had the meeting scheduled.
Well, I've got to give props to the Bluespring team.
You did a lot.
Yeah, I can speak to that for sure. I got to give props to the Bluespring executive team, specifically Angela and Harold. And I don't know if you guys recall, but when we started talking about this process and saying, we can, it's going to take this time. Bluespring, was saying it's going to take 6 months to get this done. We're like, 6 months? Come on, we can do this in like 2 months. And they had it all mapped out, and they showed us how they mapped it out. And it was pretty much 6 months to the day where we had everything transitioned over, every operational task merged in with each other. So I've got to give props to Bluespring for already having the blueprint to execute this as efficient as it happened with us.
Yeah, because there was merging of CRMs. Merging
I mean, they had it all outlined. I mean, just to the copy machine, what do you do with the copy machine?
Right.
So it was very helpful to have that as a template.
So it's almost a playbook for integrations that made
No
it easier
doubt.
to do it. So you have to do that, thinking that was more about how do you take the people and the skill set and merge them.
We just had to execute. It was, we didn't have to plan. They had it all planned out. We just had to execute.
It was, again, because of the culture and, I when I first met the team, the partners, we got along great. And I just knew that I needed to get this done because this is the group I'm looking for.
And you weren't done working. You're not done.
No, I'm not done working. I'm working.
Never going to be done working.
I'm working 5 days a week doing all these meetings. So I'm not done working.
I'm leaving the day.
We're working on that for you.
I know. They're working. They're telling me you can take
I'm walking out the door.
off.
I'm like, Mitch, go home.
Yeah, go home. I said, I need another hour. But what also, so the team was fine with it because again, if it comes from the top, their leadership, my leadership, we told them this is good. This is going to help everybody. And it did. It was very, as far as the merger part, it was very simple for us.
Well, you guys also, if I remember, you had 2 different offices where you're 15, 20 minutes apart. How did that, and different staff, how did you merge, whether it was the office space, the staff, and how did and clients, how did they all feel about this?
It feels so long ago that when we did that, but it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, we had a little moving truck and moved some furniture, and
we did some planning right before
a couple
months, and then it executed well.
Who's where this office is this person, this person, this person. We just marked the name on the boxes, and it was very smooth. It really went well.
Now they all work in one space together, right?
We're one office, we're one team, we're one company.
Yeah.
How did how'd your G2s, the next generation, react to the merger? What was their reaction? How did they?
They were very enthusiastic because Mitch just brought them right in, and he introduced them to some amazing clients. With if you get to talk to a $10 million client, and that $10 million client accepts you and asks you questions, that's quite a compliment. And so Mitch just brought them in and introduced them as his partners.
Yeah.
And they loved it. And they really took to Mitch well.
And this is where I'd say 1 + 1 = 2, because knowing your background and where you struggled finding the right G2, finding a mini Mitch.
That was a terrible.
You guys had a big group of them.
Right.
And somehow you managed to put this all together and create this great value proposition for the next gen and for that. But that worked okay?
Yeah. I mean, well, the G2s are great advisors. They want to learn, and they really they're open to taking on these clients. And I am really open to making sure I can transition the clients over to them. So we just have everybody really wants we want the same thing.
Yeah. All of our G2s could operate completely on their own. I mean, they're experienced advisors. So that's what's nice about Mitch. He can turn a case over and he doesn't have to explain anything. They know what to do.
Yeah.
And are you okay? Sometimes it's hard. I was a sales manager at one point to shut my mouth and let them talk. How are you doing with that? Letting them get their chance to learn and run with it.
A lot of it is, especially with the financial planning part now, I sit there and I say, okay, we've got your information, and Mitch or Austin or even Mike, let's go over it. And then I sit back and I don't say a word.
Sometimes you walk out of the room.
Yes, I can leave for a few minutes, but yeah, and you're right, Stuart, it could be difficult. It would be, but they're so capable and they're all willing they really want to learn and they're good at it. So I'm sitting back more and more because I really want to make this transition. I've got so many clients and I need to do this. And
and our firm actually has the capacity to do more, to bring on other advisors like Mitch too. And they would join us like Mitch would join us.
Right.
We have great capacity in the Sarasota area. Incredible opportunities over there, Melbourne area. So, really they could be in all areas of Florida or even Southeast. We have
I've got a little
capacity
hub up in Atlanta of a lot of great clients up there.
We have the capacity to do that kind of.
So do you see doing more of these? Do you see bringing in more firms?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's a passion. I'd really love to do it. Yeah.
I think a lot of firms have a hard time finding the G2s and then training them and getting them to that level. It also should technically or theoretically free up your time to be able to bring in more business and do the things you love. Is that translated to that?
That's the goal, yes. And we're getting closer and closer to doing that now because we identified the transition. We've had, like I said, over 140 to 150 meetings so far. So now we're to the stage of turning them right over. So as I get all these people off my plate, then I can go really bring in business.
So as we start to wind down a little, what would you say you learned from the process, and what would you do differently or suggest to a listener, something that they might want to factor in and think about when they do something like that?
What do you think, Keith?
There's not much. It went so smoothly for us. I don't know if there's really one big thing that I would change. Again, relying on Bluespring and having that template, that was just extremely valuable to us.
Doing your homework ahead of time.
Yeah. And really the biggest thing that I find is if you have the right culture, if the two firms are a fit and you both have the same goals, then it's pretty simple because we really want the same. We all want to grow. I never stop. I'm always trying to get more business, but I've been over capacity for years. Now, if I can get all that capacity to the G2s, and I now will be working with, I think it's 7 advisors. By the time you're done, I will be passing all this on to either 6 or 7. So that's going to take a tremendous amount off my plate where I can go out and work and bring in more business and help the G2s because, they want to learn.
And, also with Mitch, we don't want people just to join us that want to come to pasture.
Right.
Come join us and we're going to put you out to pasture. No, we want you to join us and become our partner.
Right.
And continue to do what you do here and grow. You don't have to be 70 years old and ready to quit, which there's a lot of 70-year-olds that are still going, but that's not the plan. We would bring on a strong 45-year-old, 50-year-old person that's got a lot of time that is looking to go to the next level and be part of a very large RIA.
I digress here for just a quick sidestep I know Bluespring has a very robust successor academy. Are your G2s participating in that, or are they learning how to lead a big firm like this?
In fact, they just, I can't remember the day, but they just got back a few months ago, and now we're going to have a offsite meeting next week.
Yeah. Wednesday, Thursday.
For them to, basically what we want to see them do in 2025 is take over the reins. We're like, guys, it's time. You're going to take over the reins. You're going to do the marketing. You're going to do the events. You're going to do everything that our firm has always been known to do. Now you're responsible for it.
Leadership roles.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you're hanging it up, does it?
Oh, no.
No, not at all.
No, we're not going to give them all of them. but they're gonna have more than just working with
But
clients.
that's how they learn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how they learn the business side of it.
How did clients react to this? They see it as a positive change? Are they happy with where they come?
Mine have seen it as a positive change because they know that it was me. It was just me. And, my big jokes is I would take some travel trips and big trips and things, and I would be calling in from the jungles in Africa on Wi-Fi. And I said, the one thing I'm going to tell you now is I'm probably not going to call in from my trip from the jungles in Africa when I'm on vacation. So you've got this team. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
He only vacations in the jungles of that.
Right. That's it.
I've seen those videos.
You've seen the video.
That's true.
But no, they've taken to it well because I've really made it a point that you now have, and what I really push it as is a 3-person team. Because usually I have Dave and Mitch as a team, Austin and Frank at some of the time, and then I have Mike and Steve. So I'll go to St. Augustine with Mike and Steve as a team, Sarasota with Dave and Mitch as a team. Austin will go over sometime with me.
Well,
So
his
that's what
clients
we're
have thanked us because they all love Mitch and they all care about Mitch,
Yeah.
and they all wanted they all knew how hard he was working, and they knew he needed some help, and they've been very thankful for us with this merger.
Yeah, I was about to say that several have communicated to you that it was a sense of relief because
Right.
now they know if something were to happen to you, God forbid, then everything is going to be okay, with their portfolio and their financial
Which we
situation.
reinforce that when I have the
Right,
meeting.
just in
Yes.
case you got eaten by a lion in that
Yeah.
jungle.
I know I got to run fast.
So as we have a few more minutes just wrapping up, I know a lot of the articles I'm reading in the trade publications these days are about survival of the fittest. I mean, if you look at the aging demographics, I'll say this because we all got gray hair, a bunch of us old guys running these firms, we've built these great businesses, but we've got to transition them. But I'm also seeing this trend towards the bigger getting bigger and the smaller ones having a hard time competing. Are you seeing that? And with that in mind, what are your plans both for growth organically and inorganically? What are the new initiatives you're thinking about?
Well, I see both.
Yeah.
We've got a big push on both. I mean, counting on the sub acquisitions like we've been talking about,
Mhm.
more of Mitch's, but in addition to that, encouraging everybody to keep building their client base, doing marketing events, and our clients growing and new clients, not just from clients. I see both. I see if we can grow both, I think we could become a very, very,
So
very
you see finding more firms like Mitch you can merge with and help them
and then
solve
help
the
them grow.
succession problem, help them grow, and then
Right, help
also
them grow.
Because
Yeah.
Mitch,
More
by
G2s.
Mitch getting in here and taking all the duties off him, Mitch can concentrate on just building more clients and more assets under management.
Right.
doing what he loves.
Yeah, and working with the G2s because I've done a lot of marketing over the years, a lot of events, a lot of different marketing. Everything is on the server. The G2s, I've met with Mitch, Austin, and Steve, and a couple of others, and showed them where everything is, and said, "This is how we do it. This is where it is." And we're really at the meeting. I think next week we're going to go into now.
We got Charlie.
How do you? And Charlie's going to take over that part, but what events we can do, what we can do for the clients, marketing, how do we get them to bring their friends? How do you grow the company? And
He brought that
everybody's-
aspect to us.
Yeah.
yeah,
Did a lot.
and that's what I've brought in. And they are really chomping at the bit for it. They
Yeah.
really want to do this. I think they're all pretty excited about it.
And I can say, as sort of working behind the scenes at Bluespring, what we see is that it's no longer a younger person can start in the business and just start smiling and dialing and hitting the phones and hoping to build a business. It's a lot easier to work with a seasoned professional and learn from them.
Mhm.
It's easier to grow that way, easier to learn the role, and easier to sort of see their trajectory in a career.
Absolutely.
But I want to just wrap up and say one more chance to comment. Any suggestions, comments, thoughts you have for our listeners of things, if they're thinking about this, if they're considering merging, things that you wish you had known, things you'd suggest to them, any advice from guys who have been through it and done it so successfully in what I would say is an incredibly short period of time.
What would you say, Mitch?
Well, if you find the culture that fits, the rest is easy because we get along so well. We go to lunch 2-3 times a week. The partners, we meet with the G2s all the time. I'm interacting with them. It's really, for me, it's really simple. It's really worked out extremely well, and it takes so much pressure off of the smaller firm because now I've got 23 staff. I've got, 14, 15 advisors, but I've identified the 7 that I'm going to work with. And I know now that's a big relief for me. It's a big relief for my clients.
Let me add one more too. So there's the people that may merge in from the Kester side, and then there's the people that may be listening in another broker dealer. Well, when we merged in with Bluespring, it eliminated that one big concern. What happened if one of us partners with a 23 person practice were to pass away?
Yeah.
That could be daunting. We eliminated that. What would happen if it's a down market and fees are down and that spouse is the inherited spouse, and that buy-sell agreement is being enforced, and I've seen some disasters happen. That got eliminated, and it brings a lot of peace knowing that you've eliminated that side of it. And it's been for Frank and I and Mike and Keith, that's brought a lot of peace in our life, knowing that is not something we got to worry about.
And just to add a little color, Bluespring's unique in that we acquire and invest in firms that are both hybrid firms that either come with a corporate RIA or corporate broker-dealer, but we also invest in RIAs. And we've been doing this all over the country. And it's been working really successfully, putting RIAs together with smaller practices, bigger practices, G2s, and firms that are looking for more growth, and also with a firm like yours, hybrid firms. And to me, that's exciting because I think this is the wave of the future, and you guys are right on the leading edge of it.
Well,
Keith, I didn't have any.
Yeah, I'll quickly add that, for some reason, whatever reason, our industry has never really fostered this type of succession planning or done it well. And so that was, I think that was one of the things that attracted us to Bluespring, was that aspect of not only being acquired at some point, down in our career, but doesn't necessarily mean you're done. You can continue to grow. And, Bluespring, I think, has found the successful model to, that succession planning for advisors. I mean, you look at, the big firms, and they're not doing that. They're basically just gobbling it up and telling the advisor to go away.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's not what the advisor wants. The advisor wants to pass his book or her book down to, someone that they feel comfortable with, and they feel that will take on their book, their practice, and treat it the way they've treated for however long.
When you join Bluespring, you don't feel like you've given up.
No,
you're not ready to go. You're invigorated to continue to build.
Especially when you get to do the things you really love. And because that's what I'm hearing. You found a culture that fits both with Bluespring, but more with each other and with your clients and with your employees. And there's a runway so you can keep doing this on your terms, which I think is really, really exciting.
And that is the exciting part, the merger of other firms, and also the marketing and to grow what we have in-house and look for it. So it's really worked out well.
Well, on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you. I think any firm listening probably got some good takeaways that they can use as they think about their futures and where they're going. So this concludes this episode of Bluespring Out Loud. We appreciate everyone for listening in, and we hope you tune in because we have a lot more great episodes coming up on all sorts of subjects that could really help. Thank you.
Thank you.